evening. Welcome. My name is Lisa Minkney. I'm the library director. I'm so glad you're here. I have to say, I recently signed up to become a League of Women Voters, and I'm so happy. I'm so happy to be there voting. Without further ado, I want to introduce Susan Wilson, the president. Thank you.
That works better for me. Thank you. Would you all please stand and let's pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. It feels good when you do that. Before we begin, I have a couple of announcements. I just want you to know that there are directory of public officials, brochures at the table where the goodies are, where the little where grapes and the healthier treat, the little Dunkin' Donut type bowls are. And also, I know since I have a captive audience, I really have to take advantage of that. And I'd like to urge everyone to join a carbon crew. Now, you probably have read in our voter that we've talked about the carbon crew for a long time. I was trying to figure out how long, but you know, it really doesn't matter. It's just the idea that it is a wonderful, ongoing project. And if you are interested in learning how to reduce your carbon footprint, you have to join. You have to join. It's fun to do, and I can say that I enjoyed it and am leading the charge along with Dorothy Riley and Josie Vincenzi, who are co-founders of the Carbon Crew Project. So look for the green little flyer at the refreshment table and make sure you pick up one and get more information. And let's move to our program because that's why everyone is here. The Sustainability Committee of the League of Women Voters of the Hamptons, Shelter Island, and North Fork is pleased to present information on energy programs of interest to all residents of Southampton and East Hampton towns. CCA, better known as Community Choice Aggregation, and Solar. And I'd like to introduce Terry Wildrick, who is the head of that committee, and she is going to lead us with the speakers. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you all for coming. It's so good to see a full room. We're very fortunate to have two informative speakers this evening. Lynn Arthur is a volunteer on the Southampton Town Sustainability Committee. She introduced Community Choice Aggregation to Long Island and has been a strong advocate for saving money and reducing our carbon footprint at the same time. She's been instrumental in motivating Southampton Town to develop a community solar project. And we're very happy that she's here to tell us about the benefits of CCA and community solar on the East End. Lena Tabori is a member and former chair of the East Hampton Energy Sustainability Committee. She's the publisher and CEO of the climate change website, climatechangeresources.org. She's been a co-founder and leader of several publishing companies, including Welcome Books, Stewart, Tabori, and Chang, Harry N. Abrams, and Collins Publisher, San Francisco. She's the 1983 Emmy Award winner for producing Ziggy's Gift, an animated TV special based on Tom Wilson's comic strip. She uses her professional expertise to curate and share information that inspires everyone to do something towards a solution for climate change, not only for the benefit of the planet, but also for the longevity of our species. This evening, we're pleased to hear from her about the progress toward green energy in the town of East Hampton. So let's welcome our speakers. If you have questions, jot them down. We'll collect them when the speakers are finished. And will present that.
Well, thank you to the League of Women Voters for the opportunity to speak on these two very important programs being undertaken by the town of Southampton. I'd like to open by quoting a colleague of yours at the New York League of Conservation Voters Education Fund President Julie Teig, who recently said, "After this summer, I think it's fair to say that the environment isn't just top of mind for voters, it's permeating into their daily existence. We've seen apocalyptic, hazy orange skies and the hottest temperatures on the earth has ever seen." And here on Long Island, the warming planet brings beetles that devastate the black pines, and ocean acidification that impacts the shellfish population, while severe storms continue to erode our shorelines. And who didn't notice the Canadian forest fire's effect on air quality in Suffolk County last month? Residents have watched me for the last 5 years talk about what they can do to their own homes to make them more energy efficient. This agenda today is designed to cover policy-level initiatives that have proven successful elsewhere in New York State, outside the LIPA service area, to significantly reduce greenhouse gases while lowering costs at the same time. Community Solar is a New York State program enabled on Long Island by a LIPA tariff. Think of a tariff as a description of terms and conditions a developer executes in order to get paid by LIPA. A predetermined price per kilowatt hour for every electron the solar array injects into the grid. Like the slide says, homeowners, renters, and small businesses get access to benefits of solar without installing panels on their roof. Generally speaking, you subscribe to the solar farm and you earn free bill credits on your electric bill. In the case of the North Sea Community Solar Project, the economic benefits are directly tied to the amount of electricity the project generates. The project is on a parcel of land owned by the town. The Southampton Town Board have decided to make the benefits available to all residents, including those who live in incorporated villages, as long as those incorporated villages are within the boundaries of the town of Southampton. All you need to do is apply to benefit. It's absolutely free. The Community Solar Project will provide credits up to 10% off your electric bill, guaranteed for 20 years. And since there's a limit, however, to how much economic benefit this particular project is going to generate, we estimate the project will support approximately 500 households. So if the number of applicants exceeds what the project can support, then there will be a lottery, and low-income households, by the way, will be prioritized. At this time, the project is expected to be operational in 2024, and the lottery, if there is a lottery, will probably be in the March timeframe of next year. Oh, you're so good. I'm so sorry. So there's more info here. That's the QR code, but I have also handed out, on everybody's chair should be this. I highly recommend, if you live in the town of Southampton, that you apply for benefits. The website is here at the bottom. Just go to the website, provide your information. All of your data is kept confidential. It's on town servers behind their firewall, so there's no worry about that. And on the reverse side, it's in Spanish. And you're welcome to take extra copies to hand out to your friends. We're going to start publicizing this in a few months. You know, it's really hard to talk about a benefit that's going to come 6 months from now. But since this is topical for today, I wanted to share that information. Okay? All right, let's switch gears and talk about CCA. A lot more complicated, so there are a lot more charts. Well, the town of Southampton has issued a competitive bid for electricity through New York State's Community Choice Aggregation program. If the town board decides to proceed in early October, the program, as you will come to understand over the next 15 minutes, is designed to provide eligible residents and small businesses with the opportunity to have additional choices, including renewable renewable energy electricity supply, at competitive prices, which is why we decided to brand the program Choice Community Power. This image represents the 11 zones of electricity across New York State. Southampton is in Zone K. Each zone has a default supplier of electricity and gas, established at the state level. In our case, the default supplier for electricity is a Long Island Power Authority, also known as LIPA. CCA shifts the default supplier from the utility to the power supplier chosen by the municipality. This supplier provides options typically through a competitive bidding process. The municipality selects the supplier and which of the options proposed will be the new default program for residents and small businesses in that municipality's jurisdiction. That's a mouthful. I'm going to break it down over the next couple of charts. But this New York State Energy Purchase Program, you should know, was authorized in 2016 after a successful pilot in Westchester, still running, with about 27 municipalities as part of the Westchester Power CCA program, and you can Google that. CCA is a tool that enables a municipality to aggregate all residents and small businesses together and negotiate a bulk purchase agreement, in this case, for electricity. Now, these two charts, like I said, are a mouthful, so let me step back and walk you through a utility bill so you can see exactly what I'm referring to. Here's a typical bill from PSEG Long Island, page 2. The blue line is pointing to delivery and system charges. This is what we pay for services they offer, such as billing, customer service, meter reads, responding to outages, administrative costs associated with procuring energy, and debt service. These rates are mandatory and based on how many kilowatt hours the customer consumed in the billing period. The green line is pointing to power supply charges. Not choices, charges. You don't have any choice. The bill says the cost of electricity includes the purchase of fuel oil or gas used to produce electricity and electricity purchased directly. The calculation is based on how many kilowatt hours the customer consumed in the billing period times those costs, which vary each month. And I'll show you that on the next chart. The power supply charges are a pass-through. Neither LIPA or PSEG Long Island are generating your electricity. They purchase it on your behalf and pass that cost through to you. Your cost is that rate, in this example, 10.5 cents, times whatever you use that month. Since you don't know what that rate is going to do in the future, it's very hard to predict or how to budget for it going forward. In 2016, this is why New York State came up with this new tool, CCA. This inability to forecast is what I'm referring to. It's to enable people to have access to competitive rates for this one component, power supply, on your electric bill. Now, this chart is an example of exactly what rates have done for power supply over the course of the last 12 months. And that vertical line, a horizontal line rather, through the middle is showing the 12-month average. Now, the 12-month average is also known as the benchmark, and in this case, it's 8.3 cents. So on average, over the last year, we've been paying 8.3 cents a kilowatt hour for the market supply portion of the power supply portion of the bill. Hold that thought. Now, while we can't guarantee future performance, the historic data is worth noting. For the calendar year ending in 2022, approximately 250,000 customers in 64 municipalities saved $28 million in aggregate on their electric bills while greening the New York State grid with 1.5 megawatt hours of renewable energy. So it's no surprise while CCA is growing rapidly across New York State, and by the way, also across the country. While CCA allows for more competitive rate, it also enables municipalities to request renewable supply. CCA enables expanded options, a choice of 100% renewable or as little as no renewable. It also enables eligible individual customers not to have to sign contracts. It has strong consumer protection because the contract is called a tri-party agreement. It's between the municipality, its CCA administrator, and the electricity supplier. So instead of signing their contract, they are signing our contract. We are dictating the terms. And there are no exit fees. When we go out to bid, we're going out with the aggregate usage of the entire town. Think of it as bulk buying. Now, when you switch the supplier, the roles of PSEG and LIPA basically stay the same. You can still call their helpline, you still get just one bill, and you still need to pay on time. Now, who is automatically enrolled? The program is designed to be opt-out. Now, some people have very strong feelings about that, and that's completely fair. But there's a reason New York State decided to do it like that. Truth is, it's the only real way it could work. You see, when you can aggregate the majority of people, you have a large enough pool of buyers, and with that much demand, you're able to get better pricing versus negotiating as an individual. Makes sense, right? And with that many buyers, we were also able to negotiate for terms we want and get a competitive price. However, individuals, I just want to keep reminding you, can always opt out at any time at no charge. And opting out is easy, and we're going to go through that in a minute. So with opt-out, everyone is enrolled except those listed here who are not automatically enrolled. You know, you may already have a contract with a supplier, your account might have a block on it, you might be receiving federal benefits through like the HEAP program, or if you're a commercial customer, you're on a demand meter, you're not eligible. How does it affect you? Or us, rather. After a competitive bid has been issued and the town board has agreed to sign an agreement with a supplier who has proposed terms and pricing acceptable to the town board, we will enter into what's called a 30-day opt-out period, meaning individual households or small businesses can opt out before the program even launches. All eligible households and small businesses will get a mailer. If you are not eligible, you will not get this letter in the mail. It will indicate the choices you have and how they compare to the rates from the utility. Choices like 100% renewable, 50% renewable, and ways you can opt out before the program even starts. You can opt out via the postcard that you will receive in the packet, or you can use the phone and call a number that will be provided, or you can go to a website and opt out. But even after Choice Community Power launches, you can still opt out anytime at no charge. So here's the timeline. After the competitive bidding process is completed, this is like a tongue twister, and a power supply agreement is in place, an information packet will be sent to all eligible households and small businesses in the town of Southampton. There will be a robust outreach and education period for 30 days, and then there will be an additional 30 days in which we call the opt-out period, which I just covered. Now, since this is the first time a municipality on Long Island will stand up a CCA program, we have to look at what experience has been outside the life of service area to see what we can expect from the companies wanting to enter this new market for electricity on Long Island. Our CCA administrator and the competitive bid are both saying there be at least 3 options. And let me explain what they represent. Now, 100% renewable supply will be an option whereby all the power is generated from renewable sources in New York State. A 50% renewable supply option is actually 100% renewable. However, New York has a persnickety rule that says if the electricity is not generated in New York State, you can't say it's 100% renewable. But it is 100% renewable, and we know that because the proposer has to provide these certificates that indicate, and it has to be registered with, I can't recall exactly the database, but it has to be renewable supply that comes from outside New York State. So that could be a wind farm, it could be hydro, from Pennsylvania or Delaware, but it's 100% renewable. And then the third option is conventional supply. Now what we know about conventional supply option is that it has to be at least as similar to what we're getting today. What we're getting today from LIPA is 93% from fossil fuels and 7% from renewable sources. Yeah, it is. It's
Nuclear. You're putting nuclear into the fossil fuel.
Well, let's debate that afterwards.
Okay.
So how do these new choices stack up? This is how I'm ending here. Let's take a closer look. So I've labeled, this is a new chart that I just built this weekend, so bear with me here. I've labeled these options A, B, C, and D. Now, if either of the renewable options are selected as default by the town board, each one comes obviously at a different price point, and all we can do is speculate as to what those points might be. This is the first time a competitive bid has been issued on Long Island, so I'm not going to go near what I'm guessing. It would just be pure speculation on my part. But the price points are going to be different. However, we do know that A and B are estimated to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by approximately 100,000 metric tons of CO2 equivalent emissions per year. We got that estimate directly as a result of calculating the fuel mix versus what we know to be the size of the what they call the load, the capacity that we're bidding with our RFP. So that's equivalent to taking 22,000 gasoline-powered cars off the road for 1 year, or 35,000 tons of waste recycled instead of landfilled. By selecting the conventional supply option as default, or opting out of the program completely, would add, the comments, right? If you choose one of those two options, you're agreeing to add 100,000 metric tons of CO2 into the atmosphere. So that's the environmental dimension, or the difference between A, B, and C, D. But there's one more important thing worth mentioning, and that's price stability. And before I share with you on the next chart what the energy markets are forecasting, I asked you to think about what you would do if you needed to remortgage your house and you knew interest rates were forecasted to rise. So, the accompanying article, which is kind of at the bottom there, highlighted, to the chart on the left, talks about how New York is rated 4th in the country at being the most at risk for the effects of climate change. So what does that mean? Well, this analysis was done by the analysts at Moody's. Moody's is the rating agency that determines the town's credit rating every 2 years. So programs such as these that I described today demonstrate the town is creating policies and practices in an attempt to thwart the effects of climate change on our community. And if you go pull the rating agency report on the town website from the last time, you will note that they reference the community solar project as a positive that was taken into consideration when they gave the town the AAA rating. Now, the couple headlines on the right indicate that the energy markets, what they're indicating in the future. And basically, it's a 10% increase of gas prices in 2024 and an additional 10% in 2025. So gas prices track closely to electricity prices. So draw your own conclusions, but the theory is that locking in a rate for 2 years during a period of rising prices is going to save us money. At least that's the hope. And finally, in summary, as I've covered in the last few minutes, these are the benefits. Supports renewable energy, competitive rates, strong consumer protection, and gives us the choice for the first time in the history on Long Island, choices that we don't have today. So I thank you, and I'm going to now turn it over to Lena.
So Lynn is the genius in this department. She's been working on CCA for 4 years. So East Hampton did enabling legislation for CCA just after Southampton did. But we, of course, had the same problem that she had in Southampton, which was that the enabling legislation didn't get either one of us anywhere because LIPA was standing in its way at the time. She, of course, has made certain that that didn't continue to happen, which is why it's now possible to get CCA out here. Wouldn't have happened, actually, I don't think, without Lynn, frankly, because I think she was just, she's tenacious and she's all over it, and that's kind of the girl she is. East Hampton didn't have Lynn, so we're just kind of following along. And my hope, frankly, is that, that East Hampton will take a look at what Southampton selects and jump on the tailcoat and ride along. We're smaller, and it's doubtful that we're going to negotiate anything better, in my view. And I suspect that I will not be alone in that opinion as we move forward. I had because I know so, or not I know so little about CCA because I listened to everything that Lynn has ever said, but because we are secondary to Southampton in that, I thought I would share with you a little bit about what East Hampton is doing, which I'm so incredibly proud of, even if CCA isn't, that we're not the leader in CCA. But in 2014, we were the first municipality in New York State to have a goal of renewable energy by 2030. And we've done a number of things to get us there. I started out, I was writing this thing that I was going to say to you today, and it starts out with, we know that climate change is intensifying our weather, polluting our air and water, creating sea level rise, and warming not only our air but our water. We know all this stuff, right? So the other day, because I'm working, I have this website, Climate Change Resources website, which is, it's all the information you ever needed to know, plus what.
Keep that close.
Keep that close, sorry. But it also, has action points and things for you to do. I was watching Greta Thunberg in 2018, January 2019, a TED Talk she did on climate change. She was 14 years old, and she tells the entire audience that she's got Asperger's, and that one of the pieces of Asperger's is that you see everything in black and white. And as far as she can see, since we all know that fossil fuels are creating this unbelievably destructive global warming in the world, it's impossible for her to understand why we aren't doing anything about it. Like, why isn't it front page news on a daily basis? Like, why isn't it happening? Why? And I'm watching this and I'm thinking, well, gee, that was 2019 and now it's 2023. And every single thing she says in the 11 minutes that she says this is exactly as correct today as it was then. So I'm going to depart again from my notes, which is just to say that this room is exactly why it's going to happen differently or slightly faster than it is otherwise happening. I'm 79, not 14. I share her black and white problems. I'm not Asperger's. None of you are probably either. But the fact of the matter is that it is our community. It is a community of us that is going to make the difference. And this is why Carbon Crew is also so brilliant, because a number of people, 6 to 8 or 7 or 9 or something like that, get together and they talk about this. And they use a text that gives them information, and then they set goals. And by the time the 8 weeks are over and the 6 weeks or however long it runs, 5 weeks now. Okay, so when I first did it, it was a couple of years ago, it was 6. Anyway, that's when I met Dara and Joe in the first place. But the thing is, you end up making friends with these people, and you end up discovering where you share goals and where you don't, because you don't share all exactly the same goals. We don't all have to stop flying in airplanes. We don't all have to buy electric vehicles. We don't all have to put heat pumps in, but we all do have to do something. And we have to think about what that something is that we are going to do, because otherwise I'm just gonna have to tell you about Al Gore's inconvenient truth. And that's really gonna be irritating, because the only word that really matters is inconvenient. Like inconvenient. It's inconvenient for me to put LEDs in. It's inconvenient for me to get the heat pumps done. It's inconvenient for me to put solar on my roof. The whole bloody thing is inconvenient, and it is. But I'll tell you what's really inconvenient, and that's gonna be the world that your grandchildren live in. That's gonna be what's really inconvenient. So, aren't you charmed by my presence? Yes. I mean, it is a little hilarious. You know, I'm the daughter of an actress. So the last thing in the world I ever wanted to do is to be in front of an audience, and now here I am. I mean, and it's really stupid because I'm not prepared for that. So. Okay, so in any case, as far as East Hampton is concerned, I became the chair there. I sold my publishing company to my last publishing company. I sold it to Rizzoli in 2014. I was asked to join the Energy and Sustainability Committee in East Hampton because some terribly nice person, Linda James, who was the chair at the time, you know, heard me ranting and raving and thought, oh God, you know, we need her on the committee. And then of course she made me chair. So, you know, we did a lot of things in the couple years that I was chair. And some of the things that we did were, if I could just figure it out. Okay, so we passed CCA legislation, I said that already. Then we did something that is what everybody wanted President Biden to do. You know, everybody that was marching yesterday, the signs that they were all holding up was that he should do a climate emergency declaration. That's what they wanted to do, because if he does that, he can do all kinds of things that he couldn't do otherwise. Okay, we did it in the town. So the idea behind that is that every decision that the town now makes, whether it buys a vehicle or whether it, you know, puts, you know, it needs to replace its HVAC systems, it looks at that decision through the window of climate change. And if it looks at it through the window of climate change, and it actually understands what that window says, which of course is the next thing I have to do in East Hampton, we need webinars for everybody that works in the town so that they actually learn kind of as much about the whole problem and the ways in which the solutions can be found as you know, as we have, some of us have learned. But that was a very significant piece of, I don't know, declaration, I guess is what they called it. And then subsequently, they hired consultants. You know, they had made this, they'd made this decision in 2014 that they were going to set a goal for renewables, as I mentioned before, but they weren't entirely sure that they knew exactly how to get there. And as they were looking at the fact that they already missed their goal for 2020, they hired consultants to help them with the roadmap. Southampton has done the same thing, and they're ahead of us again because their roadmap has already been fully accepted. No, but close.
Climate action plan is in draft form.
It's in draft form. So we're going to, our roadmap will be announced at a work session. Does anybody here live in East Hampton? Is everybody set? I got one, I got two, I got three, I got four. Oh my God, I got five. Very cool. Okay, so there's going to be a work session on this. It'll come up in October because I'm a liaison to all sorts of things. I go to the Green Committee in Southampton, which I think, by the way, is brilliant. And you guys, I mean, anybody that you can guest that meeting. You don't have to be a member to go to it, and it's usually the first Tuesday of every month, and it's brilliant, I think. And anyway, so and I also liaison to the roadmap meeting, and you know, we'll see if they actually come up with anything that I think is worthwhile. I don't always think everything is perfect that other people do. I haven't noticed. Yes. Anyway, but still, the efforts are there, and that's what's kind of critical. They've also done a bunch of webinars. They did one. They do. You know, there's in Bridgehampton. There's the LTV station. And the nice thing is that they film it there, they put it up on video there. And so the webinars that they've started doing, the first one they did was on electric vehicles, and they're sort of everything you want to know about electric vehicles. The second one was everything you want to know about all electric homes. That naturally led me into doing a recommendation from our committee to the town that all new construction should be electric starting January 1st, 2025. The nice thing about that was that New York State passed a similar piece of legislation, except their start date is 1 year later, and I like to be first. So I'm hoping that I can make that happen, so we'll see. And the last one they did was on sustainable landscaping. We've sort of absorbed this into our world, and although I'm not talking about it much here because I'm sort of focused on energy, we've done quite a lot in that department. Pollinator gardens, trying to get rid of pesticides, taking all of our landscaping tools and turning them into electric instead of gas. We banned gas leaf blowers 2 summers ago, so we've had 2 summers worth of no noise, which is, I don't know about you guys, but I can't stand the noise. But I didn't even care about the noise, actually. I can't stand the noise, and that sounds like I did care about the noise, but in truth, I really cared about the health. Because when you're using a gas leaf blower, and that's not dissimilar with all the fumes and the exhaust that come out of the ICE cars, you're polluting the air, and you're also putting the gas into the ground, which goes into the aquifer, which is what you then swim in. You know, people always talk about, I don't want to swim somewhere where potty has happened, but I want to swim somewhere where gasoline has happened. So that's sort of part of what drove that particular piece of things. And then, of course, they've created a solar farm as well. Southampton is way ahead of us there too. It's so irritating when they're always ahead of us. But you know, they've got a landfill, and they've got a big piece of that acreage to go to a solar farm. And 8% of their energy is going to come from that solar farm when it's operating. We, however, are ahead of them in another regard, which is that we got offshore wind. Yeah, exactly. So East Hampton made became the host and created an agreement with Ørsted to allow them to put their cable through. I'm sure you saw all the fabulously interesting press on the NIMBYism that occurred in Wainscott. I'm so sorry if anybody's here from Wainscott. But in any case, the town will get $28 million over the course of 25 years as a result of being the host for the Ørsted South Fork wind farm. There will be 15 turbines. They will supply energy for close to 70,000 homes. That will be, it's not that there aren't 5 wind turbines also already out there that are putting some energy into Rhode Island, but this is going to be the first major wind farm in America, actually. And it's a big deal in this country. You know, there are wind farms all around the UK, all around Norway and Scandinavia. But for us, it's a huge deal. And New York State is looking for 10 gigawatts of energy to come from the wind farms, and federally, I think Biden is looking for 30 gigawatts. So he's looking for a lot of energy from wind farms, and it's up against a big battle because, like everything else, there's so much money in the fossil fuel industry that is trying so hard to make everything that isn't fossil fuels happen. And so, you know, right now you're reading a lot about the fact that whales are being killed by wind farms, which is not true at all, but that's out there. And there's all sorts of misinformation like that out there. You will all love my website if you go to the misinformation page, because there is so much shit on that out there. Anyway, sorry, I shouldn't be filmed. I shouldn't use that. See that? I'm just not used to talking in public. Okay, so that's the Aquabonic Solar Farm. That's all the extra credits from that are going to Town Hall, so that's nice. We also have a solar battery energy storage system at the Parks Department. We are starting to replace all of our HVACs in all the municipal buildings. We've got 2 of them that are in the process of being done now. We created a fleet energy bill, which means that basically every vehicle that has to be replaced, they first have to look to see whether or not there's an EV that's available for that replacement before they do something else. Unfortunately, there's still too many hybrids. And for all of you that are thinking about doing an EV, let me just tell you that a hybrid was a transitional vehicle. Transitional vehicle means that, in this moment in time, is that it was a yesterday's transitional situation, because right now if you buy a hybrid, you're buying all the parts of an ICE car, which are hundreds, plus the few parts that are EVs. So when you construct a vehicle that is as complicated as that, and then you drive it for 10 years, and then you dispose of it, you've got a lot of carbon footprint in all of that, in the manufacture and the whole thing. If you start with an EV, you've got obviously manufacturing as well, but it's nowhere near the level that you have if you're buying a hybrid. So everybody was always worried about range anxiety. I'm only here to tell you, first of all, Tesla has charging stations everywhere because they decided early on that they would not spend money advertising and they would not spend money on dealers. They would only spend money on charging stations, and that's what they did. So they own them and they maintain them. Okay, so fine, you don't want to buy a Tesla. That's fine too, because every major car manufacturer is now moving over to the Tesla standard. And that is because the universal charging standard, which is what everybody else had to do when they went to Tesla, because you can't charge at a Tesla station if you're not on Tesla. So there was another standard. But unfortunately, it wasn't owned and maintained by a body the way Tesla did. So the 7-Eleven, you know, when the thing didn't work, they didn't really know how to fix it, and so it wasn't fixed. And consequently, when you bring your car there, you get annoyed because, you know, the station isn't working. So now Ford, General Motors, Mercedes, Rivian, I think too, Honda recently, they're all going to be on the Tesla standard as of 2025, and they will have adapters already in 2024. And now Tesla has also committed to the federal government because of the Inflation Reduction Act, which everybody laughs about the title for, but I mean, okay, it was a little stupid, but that's what Joe Manchin wanted, and Joe Manchin very often got what he needed at that point in time. So, you know, Tesla has now given 7,500 or they've committed to 7,500 new chargers that are from the Inflation Reduction Act federally so that everybody can use them. And they're going to start to make all of their chargers eventually universal for everybody. So I think all that range anxiety is going to disappear. And by the way, how many times do you go to Michigan anyway? Or Nevada or anything else? I mean, I drive down to Washington, DC all the time, and you know, I stop twice and charge. I go in and get a sandwich, I use the bathroom, and I come back and I'm ready to go. Okay, it's not 3 minutes in the gas station. You know, and okay, the Tesla charging station is neon, which, you know, it took 2 years for Montauk to give up the idea that they were gonna have neon stations back there in the back of the parking lot, upsetting everybody, unlike every gas station you've ever seen, which of course does highlight itself a bit, but anyway. So they're now fast chargers out in Montauk, they're fast chargers in Southampton, they're fast chargers in the middle of the village of East Hampton. And a great deal of that has to do with the fact that the town has supported it and encouraged it and worked to make it happen. So it's not just grants that are pushing all of this, it's also good old fashioned, you know, people on the town board who aren't too terrified of getting voted off. Well, I'm just here to say that, you know, I don't know, when both towns have CCA with defaults to renewable energy for their electricity, we're just gonna be quelling.
Yeah, we should work together.
That's-
It's not a competition.
Oh God, that is so the situation. Could you imagine if all 5 towns could actually get a table? And I mean, why we think that the entire nation should get together when we can't even get together as 5 towns, you know, with one objective. And the objective is so simple. I mean, we just have to.
But CCA is a program that could galvanize support across the 5 East End towns and all the incorporated villages. If Southampton gets, and we're gonna know this within 30 days, if we get a good price and the town board selects a renewable option, you know, where everyone, history, the trend is there, the data exists. All we need is the foothold, and it will spread very fast. So I am very optimistic and extremely enthusiastic and excited. And we've got to wait just a couple weeks to find out what happens.
Yeah, I mean, the result of Lynn's work is going to be extraordinary. It's a very interesting situation, you know, because on the one hand, in order to get where we're going, we have to accelerate renewable energy. So we have to generate more renewable energy than we have ever done before, whether it's the wind farm or whether it's a solar farm or you know, whether it's solar canopies over parking lot, whatever that is, we have to do that. And then we have to give that renewable energy someplace to go. And if it doesn't go through the electrical grid, how the hell is it gonna get to your
Well,
house?
there has to be a market,
Yeah, there has to be.
and that's what we're creating.
And so those two things are kind of, you know, they're running in parallel course. Okay, goodbye.
Has anyone jotted down a question?
Could I just ask a simple one before we slide? Could you tell us when and where we can go to support that decision?
Great question. Well, the pricing is going to come to us in 2 stages. First, later this month, on or about the 25th of September, the town board is going to see indicative pricing. This is not going to be shared with the public. This will be shared with the town board by the CCA administrator in executive session. And then they will, indicate interest, and the CCA administrator will talk to the various competitors, and then they will come back with best and final pricing 2 weeks later. Earlier last week, the town board agreed to a memorandum of understanding, which specifies the narrow range within which they authorize the supervisor to sign a contract with the ESCO that wins the bid. The MOU, if you will, it specifies not only the terms that will be acceptable to the 5 members of the board, but it also specifies the range of pricing that is acceptable. It's not uncommon that the bids come back and the pricing is out of whack. And the CCA administrator has told other municipalities, and I would expect, and they said they would tell our municipality, this is not the right time to sign this contract. We recommend you do not move forward. On the other hand, we know what the benchmark is. That's what I showed you on the chart. It's actually 8.7 cents a kilowatt hour, because it's 5% above the 12-month trailing average that's specified in the CCA order. And if a price comes back that's close, lower than that, or close to it, and there's a 100% renewable option, hopefully they'll make that choice as the default. But we'll see. So I would say the first board meeting in October, or possibly the last board meeting in September. And I don't happen to know, and I should have looked at that before this meeting today, but I'll make sure that I know that that's top of mind for me when I do these presentations in the future.
Don't they post the agenda the day before?
Yeah, but the agenda, this will not be discussed at the town board meeting until after the decision is made. But if this audience, anyone in this audience wants to make your voice heard, that you would like to see them select a renewable option or any option, whatever is on your mind as it relates to this program. Maybe you don't want to see the program launch at all. Whatever your opinion is, you have the opportunity at every board meeting during public portion for 3 minutes to express your point of view. And I highly encourage you to do that.
I have just 4 questions. 3 are on this topic. So you can either or both answer. How will the administrator of the CCA program be chosen?
I'll take that. The CCA administrator was chosen over a year ago as a result of a competitive bid. It's part of the process that the Department of Public Service specifies in the CCA order from 2016. I actually have a chart that I usually use when I do these presentations that shows the path to launching a CCA program. It's a pretty prescribed, you have to do things in a certain sequence. And the first step is to authorize, the town needs to authorize itself with a resolution to actually give itself the authority to launch a program. And the second step is that they should either sign up with an existing program, but they should issue a competitive bid. So in our case, the town of Southampton issued a competitive bid for a CCA administrator, and Jewel Community Power was the company that won that bid. And by the way, Jewel Community Power is the same company that advised Westchester Power back in 2016 when the first pilot was completed.
And this is a process that East Hampton would not have to go through if it got onto the coattails of Southampton. So we would avoid both going out for with an RFP for an administrator, and we would avoid going out with an RFP for the ultimate provider of our
And
energy.
it's worth noting that the CCA administrator has been advising the town of Southampton now for going on 4 years. We have gone to battle together with the utility, and we have participated in no less than 6 different proceedings by the Department of Public Service over the 4-year period to remove the obstacles in our path. They don't get paid anything. It is they work at no charge. They eventually get paid when a program launches, and they get paid a prescribed amount. I think it's something like 1/10 of a penny for every dollar that bills through, the program once it launches. It's something like that. So they get paid on the back end, and that's specified by the Department of Public Service.
Thank you. Under CCA, where will the renewable energy come from?
Oh, that's yours.
Sorry. So the proposals have to specify exactly the source of what makes up the price that they're bidding. What are the projects, where are they, whether it's the 50% renewable option or the 100% renewable option, it has to be specified, and it has to be verifiable.
So, as in whether it's hydro or wind or solar?
Oh, yes, and it has to be named. What project, what location, who's running it. There's a database. Hopefully soon I'll be more fluent. I don't have that top of mind. But I know that there's databases on a national level and on a statewide level where that information has to be registered, and it is verified. And I don't know the organization that does the verification, but it does exist. Sorry,
You
take
might
my word
just
for it.
answer the next one, which is how do we know we're getting electricity from a renewable source?
Well, it's pretty much the same answer. They have to put it in writing. And again, it's the CCA administrator then goes and checks those databases to make sure that it's registered. And that happens, by the way, throughout the life. That's part of the responsibility of the CCA administrator for the life, for the term of the agreement.
Would you take a verbal question?
Sure.
Yeah, my name's Michael Wooten. I'm actually from Wainscott, but my question was, not that matters. My question was, during your presentation, you mentioned that there was only 500 people allowed in the first tranche of this program?
Well,
Is that the max?
that's not CCA, that's community solar.
So I'm getting confused.
Yeah.
The CCA is open to everybody.
Yes, yeah, in fact, good question. It gives me the opportunity to point out that one is an opt-in program and the other is an opt-out program. Community solar, you have to sign up, so you have to opt in. And as I've mentioned, if there's more demand, more people opt in, then we have, the economics of the project can support. If there's more than 500 households who sign up to get benefit, then we're going to have a lottery. And the lottery is going to run by the Housing and Community Service Department under Cara Beck, who's a part of the town staff.
So that's strictly solar.
That's solar. The other program is opt-out, meaning everybody's in unless you opt out. So you have to actually take an action. You have to, submit.
So the grid can support the entire township for CCA.
Well, for CCA, yeah. The town of Southampton represents, by the way, less than 5% of LIPA's customers. It's much less than 5%.
Oh, yes.
It's very small.
LIPA has on their website, by the way, a lot of information about the support that they're providing. I mean, we got very involved in this because of the All Electric Buildings Act that we wanted to move forward. And one of the greatest concerns was, how is LIPA going to deal with this? All of a sudden the EVs are plugging in, all of a sudden the houses are going all electric. How are they going to handle it? And the question comes up because nationally you're reading a lot about the difficulty of transmission because the grids don't reach the places where the wind farms are, where the solar farms are, and there's a lot of resistance to sort of making it possible to bring that energy from those renewable sources to the places that need them, such as the cities, et cetera. So, but that's not an issue in Long Island, at least not according to LIPA.
I think one time, I think I saw a presentation at the Wayne Scott CAC, and they were saying that these CCAs would not, the grid would not support these CCAs if everyone opted in. But I guess that's false.
Not according to LIPA. LIPA says that they're just fine with it.
In fact,
LIPA is also going to have, when the wind farm comes on, now it's scheduled to be alive, I think the end of November, early December. The reason that LIPA made the arrangement with Ørsted in the first place was that they wanted that energy for the purpose of their peaker problems, which is summertime, basically, not winter, but that's another story. But LIPA is they're very supportive of all the electrification
Their posture has changed dramatically
in the last years.
in the last year. In fact, you can go to the PSEG website right now and just put in the search word
The
CCA.
posture meaning supporting CCA
Yes,
and not against it.
yes.
I don't know that any of you are interested, but I did a sort of a one-page just on various websites that I thought might be interesting to you. And, one of them, I think, actually, so this one doesn't have a lot, but anyway, this has a lot of them on it, not the LIPA exactly, but if you contact me, I can give you precisely the links to them.
Right. As a follow-up to my earlier question, my concern is, do we actually have enough renewable energy sources in New York State to supply the energy demands if different towns sign up? And we don't have battery energy storage systems. The best systems. We have one in East Hampton, but there was a little fire. And in Southampton, they haven't decided to do one.
We have one in Montauk too.
Yeah, and so there's no way to store the energy. And do we have enough renewable energy sources?
There's a couple of questions in there.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, the whole idea, the reason why New York State is so excited, and if you know what NYSERDA is, the New York State Energy Research Development Authority, they have gone on the record as stating that CCA is the single most important and valuable tool a municipality has at its disposal to move an entire town over to renewable sources with one decision and one contract. Now, that said, the point of it is, as CCA, first of all, putting up a CCA program takes years. Because the municipal process with public hearings and there are all these steps. So it's not something like you snap your fingers and you say, give me renewable energy and I want it tomorrow. It doesn't happen quickly like that. The whole idea is, as more municipalities express a desire through launching programs, it's a signal to the market that we want to build more projects.
Okay. Yeah, see, so we still have to build more projects in order to supply this renewable
Absolutely.
energy.
Absolutely.
It's not there yet.
But the bids, well, I would argue that none of us in this room really are qualified to know what's available. And stay tuned. I mean, within 30 days, we'll know. I mean, there are at least, I'm trying to decide what I can say. There are at least 2 or 3 very large companies that are bidding on Southampton's, RFP. So, we're optimistic, but we don't need to speculate. We just have to wait a few more weeks and we'll know.
I would just add, though, that battery storage, which you referred to, is the single biggest problem that exists across the nation at the moment. Even in California, where the wind doesn't blow there, or the sun shines more than it does other places, but battery storage is now limited to about 8 hours in any given piece of time. So we need battery storage that can hold energy for days. And there's a tremendous amount of exploration in this regard. But I would say, unless you disagree, then that we haven't solved that problem entirely yet.
I think there are more questions. Dor?
Just assuming that it's passed and for 100% renewable, why would we ever want to opt in or try and opt in for community solar?
Oh, because you can get both.
But we're already getting 100% energy.
Yeah, but you're gonna get 10% off your electric bill.
Ah,
And, it's a local project. Local projects generating electricity into the grid where we need it.
Yeah.
I mean, it turns out that this particular solar array on the North Sea Transfer Station is in a load pocket that's undergoing tremendous growth because there's been a lot of building. And, you know, I live nearby, and we've had historic, you know, blackouts in the past and brownouts and what have you. So building this project in this location actually is very beneficial for a lot of reasons, other than getting the 10% off your electric bill. Anyone else?
Oh, come on, ask some really dumb question.
Oh, great. Okay, the solar farm that we have on Accabonac Road in East Hampton,
Yeah.
where does, what energy does that supply? It supplies homes or town facilities?
270 homes worth of energy.
270.
Yeah, so that's not a lot.
Yeah.
But East Hampton doesn't have a lot of land. I mean, they've just been asked by NYSERDA to give them, for the town to give them an MOI, right? Memorandum of Understanding that allows them to look at various sites that we've chosen to give them as possibilities for other places where we can do solar. For them to make that decision, they will then look at our elected places, they will make the decision, and then they will pay for that to move forward. So we are trying to do some more things, but we have no, you know, East Hampton is built out, pretty much.
You know, there is one other, I'd like to add, if I may piggyback on your response. One of the things our CCA administrator did at no charge during this last year was to do an analysis of the GIS system. We looked at all the town parcels. It was started with around 350. And they examined it in conjunction with the interconnect map, where you could build a project, where you could inject into the grid, where you were able to actually make that connection at a reasonable cost. And they identified, you know, somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 locations that were possible. So without, you know, going any further, what I want to say is this is one of the byproducts or benefits of working with a CCA administrator. They have the skills and willingness to look at not only town parcels, but, you know, the county owns land in every municipality in Suffolk County. And hopefully, you know, with our next county executive, maybe there'll be an opportunity for us to work with the land management folks at the county level to see if there's an opportunity for us to build projects, you know, throughout the life of service area with solar and or battery storage.
We are also promoting solarization on roofs. We've got about 195 residents now within East Hampton that have got solar on their roofs, which are generating also energy. It's another form of yes.
Well, the CCA,
So, I'd just like to go back to the best situation with, obviously, I've been on the planning board. My question is twofold. Has LIPA, the east end of Long Island has been underserved by LIPA for generations, which is why we have no substations in areas that are benign. So is there any pressure being placed on LIPA to build some substations, say at the town transfer stations, at industrial parks? Is there any communication with that, Lynn?
You know, not that I know of, but I haven't asked that question directly. When the offshore wind, you know, after the South Fork Wind Farm was well established and NYSERDA took over the bidding, you know, for these other wind farms, I was lobbying and I was talking to individuals that worked at Ørsted and also at Equinor, about why can't we in Southampton get a cable, you know, to the canal substation? Wouldn't that be an ideal location, because it's sitting in an exact right spot? Because we've got these load pockets, we have one cable that serves the whole East End, it's crazy, you know, it should be. And I was told that, like you said, that substation, it requires substantial investment of, you know, I don't even know how many millions or $1 billion in order to upgrade it, in order to take in that capacity that would be coming from a substantial offshore wind project. I never followed up. I mean, it was sort of a dead, but I agree with you. And I think that's...
Maybe there's some federal money for that, because the investment has to be made. The East End has not been invested in
You're absolutely
in a
right.
long time.
You know, you're right, and I see the co-chair of the Sustainability Committee is in here as well.
Yes,
I
see.
will put it on the agenda.
And she's also on the planning board.
Yeah, I don't think it's a much of a leap for us to start talking about that, but I agree with you. Yeah.
Thank you, thanks.
Did you have another question? Otherwise, we'll...
Oh, you mentioned the solar panels on private homes and businesses. As the advent of CCA spreads to different communities, is that going to increase demand for people to put solar panels on their roofs as well as small businesses?
I don't,
Definitely in East Hampton.
well, I would,
Does that mean, will it benefit homeowners to have solar panels on
I
their-
think of it differently. I designed the first solarized program in Southampton under contract as a subcontractor to the town, and we increased permits by, I think we tripled the number of permits in the first year, and that happened for 2 consecutive years. It's clearly, people will, it's really hard to wrap your head around the analysis to put panels on your roof, but once you know, do a little bit of education, the rules change every year, so the dynamics are different, but right now there's still a 30% investment tax credit on whatever you spend on that project. And if you need a new roof that you put solar panels on, you can take a tax credit on that too. So it's really a matter of, is the financing, you know, if you're paying cash, it's one thing if you can afford to do it, but if you need to finance it, you know, several years ago, I got a New York State, when I first did it on my own roof in 2017, the smart energy loan from New York State, you know, it's subsidized. It was, I think I have a 15-year fixed rate of 3.49%. So on day one, and I didn't pay $1 to the solar company. So I got a system that was equivalent to the entire bill. And my cost per month, because I'm now financing with this New York State Smart Energy Loan, and I'm paying this $12, at the time it was $12, it's now $15 a month. Between the financing, I was paying less than my average price for electricity, and that was 5 years ago. Well, guess what? Prices have gone up every year, right? So when you look at the compound growth rate of your electric bill over time, and this, by the way, is on the town website, the sustainablesouthamptonny.org. There's a, it doesn't make sense not to do it in spite of everything. You know, forget CCA, forget community solar. Putting panels on your roof is a good analysis to do. I just haven't looked at it today because look, you can't borrow money that cheaply right now. So it's a matter of how you plan to finance it. But the town has programs, East Hampton has programs, we have programs in Southampton. You can always contact me. I'm happy to talk to you about how to make that decision.
We just have an RFP out now for a new solarized partner at Energize, which is the East Hampton website, which deals, we'll hear by the 28th of this month who we are going to select for that RFP. And I support everything that Lynn has said, and also add that I put heat pumps in 3 years ago with much the same kind of results,
It's the same
and in the same structure.
I retrofitted my house with geothermal, and it was much cheaper than retrofitting with a conventional propane system. So there's so many things that people can do they just don't know about.
And I did it with air source. But that Lynn is exactly right. people just don't know about what the possibilities are, and they're frightened of the changes, you
That's
know.
the issue, that it's very hard to find this information.
Yeah.
If you go on the NIJA website, the first thing they ask you to put your zip code, right? It says Bridgehampton zip code is not in New York State.
Well, if you're gonna go talk to the town board, I would encourage you to also tell them that they need to invest in outreach, because there's no money in the budget for educating the public.
Finally, after weeks and weeks I reached somebody in the state, they told me they don't do Long Island. I have to find somebody, they gave me a number on Long Island. I got to LIPA somehow. The guy tells me, oh, we don't go out east, but I can give you a contractor who can, you know. So because I send you the contractor, then 2 days later he emails me, you know what, don't do anything, maybe we're gonna come out. But I'm busy now, and you know, and it's been 2 weeks and I never heard from them.
It's not a good story, because it shouldn't be made complicated. It's supposed to be made easy. So I vote that you come and take my website things, because there's a lot of good information
Solar,
there.
heat pump, all those things, you know. And it's like.
Where do you live?
Bridgehampton.
Oh, well,
So that means that the East
But I
Hampton.
still have a oil heat, and it's just bothers me.
It bothers you, and it'll be more inexpensive to switch from oil to heat pump than it was for me to switch from gas to heat. So,
Lynn, did you have any problems with insurance companies talking about their approaching your homeowner's insurance and dropping you if you touch your roof? Because this is going on all over Florida. I mean,
No.
well, they're looking for any reason to drop you.
I replaced
So-
my roof twice, actually, since I've owned my house.
You don't pay any additional insurance costs as a result of putting any solar on your roof.
No.
Joe, do you want to go to my insurance page?
I want to say,
you
I
absolutely
love your
do.
website.
No, not
Is
that, but
where
just the insurance page alone.
Yeah.
Because insurance companies, the five biggest insurance companies are now dropping everybody in Florida and California. Everybody is being shifted over to the state insurances. They can't handle any more than they've already got. FEMA is needed for flood insurance, and FEMA's going pretty bankrupt at this moment. I mean, if this Hurricane Lee that had passed us by, if it had not passed us by, if it had done what many of us thought it might do, which is to strike us, we would have become the next target, I would say. We would have to start worrying about our own insurance. And if insurance companies stop insuring people, they can't sell their houses because they can't get mortgages. People can't get mortgages without insurance. So this is going to become something else that we're going to need to concern ourselves with. I mean, of all the consequences of climate change, I know it's impossible for us not to deal with the consequences right in front of our face. And insurance is going to be one of those. It's going to be right in front of our face. So I beg you to think about the grandchildren.
I thank you guys for your patience with us
Thank you.
tonight.